The big shareholder meeting for Tesla is coming up in just a week and a bit on June 13th, and invites have already started to be sent out. In possibly very important news, there's signs that Jamie Dimon, CEO of JPMorgan, a large shareholder, is now friendly again with Elon Musk. JPMorgan is the 8th largest shareholder, and so positive vote by them would be very significant. We're going to review the top 10 lists. We'll also watch a video of Cathie Wood and see what she said about the vote. And finally, we're asking Tesla shareholders to sign a petition to get Calpers, a California public pension fund holding 0.29% of shares, to change their no to a yes. I've got Jeff Lutz with us. He's an ex-supply chain executive and chief quality officer at Fortune 100 companies, and now he's the CEO of his own consulting firm. Welcome, Jeff.
Hey, Herbert. Great to be with you. Important topic.
Important topic. You yourself have received the invite, and I know that you're bringing Alexander Mertz with you, which is great. So, folks who are interested at Tesla shareholders, you might want to join. Come to the shareholder meeting. This is the big one, right? The vote is going to happen, and I think we understand that either is it immediately on that day, Jeff, or is it the next morning that they will actually know the answer already?
I would think they would know. I would think they would know pretty quickly. That's a good question, actually. I would think they would know for the meeting.
I think they would know already.
The voting, yeah.
They would announce it at the meeting, is what I've heard. I don't know if it was like right after the meeting or during the meeting or if it's the next day, but it's like pretty immediate. So this is happening June 13th. And one of the things that we're getting out the vote, please, if you are a Tesla shareholder, please go out and put in your vote. That's quite important that the retail investors get out there. I've seen different kind of analysis and not quite sure where we're standing, but it looks like that, we need to get everybody to vote for the re-ratification of the 2018 compensation plan for Elon. And then, of course, the move to Texas might be a little harder, so that we need as many people to vote. Calpers has come out, and she was on CNBC recently saying that at this point it's a no, but there's I think a petition that we can change her vote. And if enough people sign it, then there's going to be so much pressure for them to change their vote to yes. So please go sign this petition. It's at change.org, and you'll find it for Calpers. Just look it up under Calpers. What's your thought about these efforts that we're trying to put together here, Jeff?
I think they're good. I think it's good for us to organize, for shareholders to organize in general, just for any company, for any cause. And I think it's good to let these institutions know, what we're thinking and what's important to us as shareholders. Because you never know what the priorities are and what they're thinking. And I think it's really important to do this. Now, will it have some sort of outsized benefit, and will we be able to tie the two together? It's hard to say, but a lot of the work that's been done, a lot of the organization that's been done, and the feedback that's been given, again, I think you have to keep everything, and we are doing, I think people are keeping it respectful. They're really just organizing, getting numbers, getting signatures, whether it's a letter writing campaign or whatever, keep everything cordial and keep everything calm, but also kind of come together. The force would be in numbers, and the force would be like, look, there's a large number of people in the shareholder base that think a certain way. Obviously, you're going to get that information from the vote itself, but I think these additional efforts are making an impact, and they are being noted. It's like, look, there's a lot of there's a lot of effort being put into this, and there's a lot of thinking, and people care about this stuff, and I think that's what these organizing these efforts, to me, send a message on. So my hat's off to everybody that does this. There's a number of people to name. I wouldn't want to miss a name. Obviously, Alexander has been doing a lot of the work just to allow people to have the opportunity to vote. Whether they could be voting no, but just enabling so that shareholders can vote. I can't believe, to me, there's two travesties happening here. One is just that the will of 73% of shareholders from the 2018 compensation vote has been overturned by a single judge. And the second thing that I think this single judge should be aware of are the billions of dollars and millions of shareholder votes that are like people can't physically vote. They're not able to because of the institutions that hold their money have not unlocked that capability after many requests in some cases.
Thanks, Jeff. Yeah. So actually, it was Gail Alfar who put together the petition. Yeah. And then, of course, Alexandra is helping to get this vote out. Amy Steffen is doing tremendous amount of work as well. Yep. Like you said, there's so many people. Well, we're missing a few. But, Calpers is holding 9.4 million shares. That's a small amount. That's only 0.29% of outstanding shares. But it's still very important because it's a signal here of somebody who voted yes in the past, changing it now, probably for other, either union or whatever, I don't know, whatever reasons. It's in California. And Elon replied. And he said something like, and I forgot to take a copy of that, unfortunately, but he said something like, this is, not good integrity by you guys, Marcy. So let's change their vote. Please go and do that. So listen to what Kathy Wood said about this. And again, and Elon replied to this one, liking this tweet. Elon said, Kathy Wood says, it's un-American, anti-investor, and it's an insult to the board of directors of Tesla. The judge ruling in Delaware took away shareholder voting rights for a pay package, despite the 73% shareholder vote. Musk's more voting shares request is primarily for voting interest, not economic interest, right? He's not doing it because he wants more shares. There's support for super voting rights for visionary leaders to execute their vision without interference from short-term oriented shareholders or board of directors. Let's listen to Kathy Wood.
We're very supportive of that. What happened in Delaware, the judge ruling and basically taking the vote away from us, the shareholder. We voted for that pay package, 73% of shareholders did. And to have the judge kind of thinking that she is reading the minds of directors and independents, dependents, whatever. I just think, as I said in a post on X, I think it's un-American, it's anti-investor, and it's an insult to the board of directors of Tesla. So totally supportive of that move.
Are you supportive of Elon Musk's requests or demands or whatever you want to call it to get more voting shares? Or as he says, he'll take some of his technology elsewhere? Or do you feel as though Tesla's sort of being held hostage to that demand?
I do not feel that. Being involved in disruptive innovation and only disruptive innovation, we know that we need visionary leaders who will stand up to short-term oriented shareholders and be able to execute their vision with the right technologies at the right time. And Elon Musk is the inventor of our age, and he is also our Renaissance man. So I'm always surprised at the pushback he receives. And I do think that 25, he's not asking for any more economic interest, it's voting interest. And for many of our companies, we are supportive of super voting rights because we know the visionary leaders, we go through periods of volatility and they just need to be able to execute upon their vision, not be thrown off by boards of directors who are listening to short-term oriented shareholders and sway.
Okay, what do you think, Jeff?
I can't agree with that more. I think that is the key takeaway from all this, which is Elon is a visionary leader. There's data that demonstrates that both from what's on the Tesla roadmap, what they've delivered, the vision of the actual company itself, and actually how they execute. Their approach to simplification, their approach to lowest cost, their approach to scale. These are all things that a true, visionary leader puts together. And these are decisions that have to be made over a multi-year, maybe even multi-decade horizon, right? These decisions around batteries, these decisions around supercharging, these decisions around autonomy, these decisions around compute. These are not 1-2 year decisions when these votes come around, or even in the 5-year range for these compensation packages. So he needs to be, what needs to happen is number one, we need to clear the decks and say, look, not from an economic perspective, purely from a voting interest perspective, he is Tesla. Elon is Tesla. And whether you like, this isn't disenfranchising everybody else that works for Tesla, because Tesla wouldn't be what it is without its employees, its engineers, everybody. Engineers are employees, but I mean, it wouldn't be what it is today without everybody that's involved. But in terms of that direction, that culture, that all comes down from him onto his staff and onto the rest of the team. So let him have his voting rights so that he can make sure that he can guide and steer the company and have the confidence to have this portfolio of undertakings occur at Tesla versus another place where he can just get the right corporate structure down so he can do this work. Don't make the future of Tesla just around this structural question. And the question is like, if you don't want to, if you're on the other side of this and you wouldn't want to give him more voting rights, so who do you actually want the voting rights to go to? Or is Vanguard or Morgan Stanley, are they sitting in the factory at midnight at trying to figure out how we're going to get Unboxed going and get it up to scale? No, they're not. So you want to give the voting rights to the visionary leader, and you want them to be able to make those multi-year, multi-decade decisions unencumbered and be able to invest and guide the vision of the company. So to me, that's the biggest takeaway in all this. This has to happen. And people are investing in Tesla. I guarantee you that they're investing in his visionary capability and the ability to actually execute and get results. And if you just look at it from an EV perspective, we don't know if there's anybody on record even building EVs profitably anywhere in the world. It's questionable, if at all. And to be able to do this at scale and have the vision to set all this stuff up from a decade ago and even the last 5 years, and then execute on this compensation package ahead of schedule. I mean, to me, it is almost un-American to not honor in what world would anybody step up and say, yep, we shouldn't pay the person for the work they've done for the last several years because of X, Y, or Z when they delivered on the results. And I know some of the arguments on the other side were like, look, the way the compensation package was set up in 2018 was to really make sure that, is such a big undertaking, is to make sure that Elon was focused on Tesla. And what happened near the end is like, well, look, he's went off and bought X, he went off and did this and did that, but he still delivered on the objectives and the milestones ahead of plan. So to me, these are kind of like normal people, kind of like norm thinking, and they're trying to apply it and overlay it onto Elon versus saying like, let's just look at the plan, the objectives, and the actual results, and the results are there. So I think you should be supporting, I would be supporting, in my opinion, I would be supporting those efforts, but I think people should vote how they want to vote. But, I agree with Kathy's sentiment around making sure visionary leaders have the runway to actually be able to set out a vision and execute on it without being encumbered by the company being split 1,000 different ways in terms of voting interest.
Yep. So I liked what Kathy said. She's very articulate. End of the day, what matters is who owns the most votes, shares, and how are they going to vote. And so let's take a look at the top 10 list here. You've got Elon. Unfortunately, I don't believe he can vote. Right, Jeff? He can't vote.
There's certain things that he can't vote on based on what he's commented on Twitter, but there are other things he can vote.
So then Vanguard is number 2, BlackRock number 3, and then you pointed out before, right, that the Elon followed the CTO, the CIO at BlackRock. I don't know if that means anything, but you're hoping that might mean something. And then you've got JPMorgan. We're going to do that story now. They're at, they're number 8. They're the 8th largest, and there's bad blood between Jamie Dimon and Elon Musk. But the good news is they're actually, reconciled at this point. It looks like we'll see. It's
on BlackRock, I mean, Rick Reeder is this chief investment officer. They have, I think, over $3 trillion in assets, and he is a big Tesla and Elon Musk fan. So I'm glad to see that Elon followed him, and hopefully that Rick has figured out how to navigate whatever he needs to navigate inside of BlackRock to support Elon and extending this vision for Tesla for the next, call it decade. So I'm hoping that that support actually comes in from BlackRock as a result. But he's a big fan, from what I'm told.
Let's learn more about JPMorgan. So this is Jamie Dimon, the CEO of JPMorgan. Wall Street Journal just published this article researching it. They're making peace, it looks like. So after years of feuding, the business titans spoke at an exclusive JPMorgan summit, opening the door for them working together again. So you've got, have been patching things up, looks like. And since 2016, they had a fallout. And so it was in March that Elon attended this JPMorgan technology conference. They talked on stage, and then later we'll show that they actually met separately as well. And so they're both parties are actually suing each other, and they're still in a legal battle. And it still looks like JPMorgan sued Tesla because of this $162 million that JPMorgan says Tesla still owes them, should pay for a series of trades. And then in the case of JPMorgan, Tesla has a very negative relationship with JPMorgan. That's what Elon said in a court case last year. And JPMorgan hates Tesla in a nutshell. Now, JPMorgan was never Tesla's most important advisor. Goldman Sachs and Morgan Stanley were. But they did, use JPMorgan for quite a bit. But it started off when Elon wanted JPMorgan to, one of the biggest country's auto lenders, to underwrite the leases for Tesla's electric vehicles. But JPMorgan said no, they didn't want to do that. They weren't sure how to value the life of the car batteries, which of course turns out to be completely irrelevant at this point because car batteries last incredibly long. So Elon was upset about it. And then he threatened to pull Tesla's business with an FU, one of the people said. So they used to have all of the Tesla's commercial banking business, but then when he asked JP Dimon at one point to support with the automotive license, he declined, so they withdrew. And then they're suing each other. If JPMorgan doesn't withdraw their lawsuit, I'll give them a 1-star review on Yelp, Elon said. So they met, and then after they met, they actually did, it sounds like here that they had a good rapport on stage, and Elon often being deferential to Dimon's views. And then following the event, Jamie Dimon decided the bank could try to resume doing business with Musk, some people said. And then this is the thing that after the event, Elon visited Jamie Dimon. They had a private meeting. It was supposed to be just short, but it lasted more than an hour. So this is a pretty good news, hey, Jeff? I mean, it sounded like, hopefully that they did patch things up because JPMorgan is the 8th largest shareholder. It's something. What do you think?
Yeah, I mean, you hope they did. And Jamie Dimon, he's made his views known. I was going to actually start politically because they're kind of slightly on different ends of the spectrum, but actually they're both more centrist than I think most people give them credit for. And I've heard Jamie Dimon speak. I think he's super eloquent, especially on political topics. We don't agree on everything, but I think his approach is rational and objective. In his approach, and I think Elon's been again mostly objective as well. And they're more centrist than I think they get labeled for, but on different ends. So I'm glad that they actually had the opportunity to meet because I think that their leadership is important on a number of different topics. When Jamie Dimon speaks on markets, he actually is able to move. If he's at a conference and he says, "Hey, a hurricane's coming, a storm's coming," he's actually able to move markets with his commentary. So highly respected banker, very talented, and obviously JPMorgan has a tremendous number of assets under management. So in terms of capital allocation, in terms of being able to work through these issues. I think, by the way, this is one of the reasons that battling FUD is really important. Look at that reasoning behind why JPMorgan wouldn't underwrite leases. They were concerned about, batteries, all the batteries going bad over some certain shorter period of time, which just isn't the case. And the Tesla scientists and the Tesla battery team be able to show that. But I'm sure somebody, in that management chain on the JPMorgan side heard the FUD and said, hey, we better get out in front of this, and maybe we shouldn't support it. So that's why, just a side of I think fighting FUD is important. But yeah, it's good that these two leaders have gotten together. It would be great to see something announced. Maybe that they work on a project together. Maybe that JPMorgan starts supporting Tesla in some area, versus another. So I would be looking forward to seeing that. But I think it does start with the two conversing again, instead of it being messages on X or messages that get out into the media, that they can just talk live together. And usually when the meetings run long, that's usually can be a sign of that they found a way to make progress in communicating with one another, and they wanted to talk longer. So I think there's mutual respect, and hopefully that this continues to grow and it turns into a deal. Looks
like that the original issue was Elon wanted JPMorgan to do underwriting the leases for Tesla's vehicles, and then they balked at that. What we're hearing now, there's signals, right, that Elon and Tesla might actually start offering more financial incentives, right, like this 0.99%. Do you think that that could be something that JPMorgan steps up and says, we'll do that for you guys?
Yeah, they may. We don't know which banks are behind it. They may have already been supporting Tesla, and that may have been one of the driving forces here. And we talked about it in the prior video. I think this is really good timing. I do think cuts are coming in the next, call it 6 months.
Right.
And so we're on the other side of this big wave of, rates are going up and, higher for long. We're on the other side of that. So I think this is the point in time where I think Tesla's gonna be able to crawl out of this. If you think there's kind of something going on with macro auto, they're going to come out of it much faster. They have much lower network latency. Again, that's the time for you to be able to procure components, produce vehicles, and how much vehicles you actually have in your network, your inventory network. Tesla's got, think of an accordion. It's collapsed to a point where it's much, much, much more collapsed than, let's say, a GM or Ford, which actually they're expanding. And there's some data out there that says that there's channel stuffing that's occurring now, kind of like the old practices of hey, you see sales slowing down, start stuffing the channels, so you move the problem from you to somebody else. So this could be a good time for Tesla and JPMorgan to do a deal, maybe extend this financing across other assets and platforms besides the Model Y.
Good. All right, so let's take a quick look again at the top 10. So it's very important. I hope that Tesla is making some moves here, and hopefully, let's just cross our fingers. JPMorgan, one of the big ones. And they did say that the top 4 of the top 10, when they first started, had already approved or in favor. Do you know, did they actually say who the top 4 of the top 10 were?
I'm not exactly sure which 4. That would be a great question for Alexandra.
I don't think they've. Yeah, I don't think they announced it. Okay, so folks, please, Calpers vote. Please go there, go to change.org and look for the Calpers vote. And even if you're a shareholder, it doesn't matter where you are in the world, just sign it. This is a petition. It's showing that the shareholders care, that the shareholders, want to have our voice. And sometimes some of these organizations, they just need the cover. They need somebody to say, look, I got a lot of calls from the shareholders. I'm going to go ahead and say yes, despite, whatever pressure I'm getting from somewhere else. And so that's why it's important that we all do this. And then shareholder meetings coming up. We're going to see what happens. But today that was, a couple potentially important news. Thank you so much, Jeff. Appreciate that.
Thank you, Herbert.
Yeah. Follow him on X at the Jeff Lutz. Thanks, everybody. Bye-bye. I've created a website that is the most comprehensive resource for the Tesla investor. Please check it out. Simply go to my website at herbertong.com.